Hi soulmates, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome. In today's tutorial, we will be drafting and sewing this particular style you can see, and let's get right into it. So now I've folded my fabric into two. You can use your hip measurement or your sleeve length to fold this fabric of your choice, and then we would start by creating our starting line. So I marked 2 inches. This fabric is 60 inches in length, so I marked 2 inches above there to create my starting point, and then I marked 1.5 inches at the folded area there. That is going to be where my neckline is going to be sitting, being that it is a V neckline, but it is not separated at the middle, right? So now I just ruled down the line down there, and here from that point where I marked, that's where my starting point is going to be. So I marked my shoulder measurement divided by 2, and then I took the rest of the length there as my sleeve length. I think that's about 21 inches. So now on the shoulder measurement, I took my neck width and neck depth. So here I used 2.75 inches for the neck width and then the depth of 3 inches. Being that there's going to be a flat round collar on this dress, and I want it to be a little bit closed, not so open as seen in the picture. So here I went down by 1.5 inches on the shoulder slope, but then I later ended up using 2 inches because it wasn't as slopey as I wanted it to be. So I changed the point there to be 2 inches, like you can see. And then from the main line that we drew earlier, I started taking my vertical measurements, and this measurement I took my waistline 17 inches, the hip line which is 26 inches, and then I used the rest as the full length of the dress. So now I'm just marking these lines out so we can see. So from the shoulder slope there, I came down by 12 inches. Yes, I wanted the sleeve to be as wide as possible. It's a free sleeve, no tightening at all. And then I just connected it to the 21 inches that I used as the sleeve length. So here I'm taking the round measurements, the hip measurement. So I divided my hip by 4, and then I added 1.5 inches for ease and then 1 inch for sewing allowance. So I transferred that same measurement to the waistline, but here I forgot to mark the chest measurement. So I just went up by 3 inches from my waistline to the chest measurement, and then I took the measurements divided by 4 as well, adding every right proportion. So now I went down to the lower part of the dress, and then I connected it from the hip straight down. I came up by 2 inches there because I'm going to be folding that part, and then the opening by the side I went up by 15 inches, and out of that I took 1 inch away because we're going to be folding it in as tapered as we want it to be, so that can be as dim fit as you want. So here I'm just connecting, and then from the chest line I'm just drawing that line there so that it be as smooth as possible, and I'm cutting it out like so. So before you cut the shoulder measurements, go up by 1/2 inch because you'll be joining the back and the front together, and you don't want to be short of any fabric while sewing. So I went up by 1/2 inch, and then I cut it out like you can see here. So please take note that waist area there, you are going to be notching it because that notch is going to help us a lot along the line. So right at to take the back measurements now is just to place the front measurement on the back piece and then cut. But remember, the 1.5 inch that you took from the center front, you're going to be folding that in because you don't need that excess at the back. And then I've just cut it out. Now I'm going to join my shoulders together, and you would open up the center front. I haven't done that here. I've gone ahead to weave as well because I don't want any fabric removing or loosening out. And I've also used my steam iron to taper out how I want to fold the sleeve. Guys, as you sew, you iron, it makes your work neat. And here I'm going to be cutting open the center front like I said earlier. So now let's just cut the center front open. Now you can see the part that we're going to be joining together, but first we're going to be adding a flap or a mini pocket look-alike. So to do that, turn on the right side of the fabric. At the notched area, you come down by 2 inches away from that part, and then you mark it straight down just to connect to the center point. So from the center point, you're going to take a straight line and determine the full length you have there, divide it by 2, and then notch the center, or you just mark the center, right? So now determine how long you want your flap to be, so by width and by length. Mine, I used 6 inches by 4 inches. So what I did was to mark 3 inches on both sides of the point, and then I did the same thing for the other side of the fabric, as you can see. So I have 6 inches line there, and now we're just going to cut out that flap area using a random piece of fabric that I have left from what I cut. So I just did 5.5 inches here because by the time I cut and then I sew to turn it out, I'm going to end up having about 4 inches or 4.5 inches. So for the width, I did 7 inches here because I'm going to be cutting out and sewing allowances away. So right, I cut 2 of these flaps, and then I went ahead to sew it like I'm illustrating here. So right, I have done that, sewing on just one 2 sides so that I could open up from the other side. So having done that, I went ahead to serge that open side as well, just so we can have neat work on. And then you use your scissors to put out a pointed part there because that side is going to be bulky if you don't do that. So do that and then flat iron. Like you can see here, I've already gone ahead to serge. So now I'm going to place it on that 6 inches mark. Then before you place, fold it into 2 to get the center part. So you can have both center on each other, and then you're going to sew like that, flip it over, and then top stitch on it just to secure it extra. So I've gone ahead to do this on both sides of the flap area that I marked, and then I'm going to be sewing the flap on the sleeve area for the turn up. So go up by 8 inches or as much as you want your turn up to be. Once this is done, we'll have a cutout already, a piece of fabric to make the flap. So here I used 10 inches of that flap, and then I am cutting it out here to turn it to the right side. So once you cut it out, you turn it to the right side, and then you attach it on that point that we made on the sleeve there. Attach it, and then we're going to be flipping it to the right side. So here I just used my pin to hold it down so I could illustrate how it's going to look by the time we use it as pull-up. So here you can decide to put your buttons directly, or you make a buttonhole as you deem fit, guys. Explore. So you can also raise it higher than that if you wish, but I didn't want my turn up to be too much, so I just did it on that side. So now the neckline, you know, on the picture we saw it's slightly v-neck, and we didn't cut out a v-neck from the start. So determine how low you want your v-neck to be. I wanted mine to be at 8 inches, and then at the center point there, we're going to sew it down. But guys, before you sew, please hold on. You're going to tilt the neckline a bit by half of an inch or 1 inch, depending on how wide you want your v-neck to be. So tilt it to the side a bit and then steam press it, then secure it with an hemming gum or something, just to hold it tight down there. See, now I have done mine. I went out by half of an inch for the opening around there because I didn't want it to be too open, and then I have joined the center front there. Guys, take it from me, before you join the center front, ensure you have done the rest of the things I'm going to be showing in this tutorial. It makes your work much more easier. And I'm talking about the casing that we're going to be doing at this point here. If I had known, I would have joined it first before joining my center front. So at the waistline that we have there, we're going to come in by 1 inch. That's going to be the side where we will be putting our eyelet for the rope to come out from. So go in by 1 inch to the main fabric side, and then we're going to be putting our casing on top of that waistline that we have there, and we will sew it all the way around. So I've gone ahead to prepare a strip of fabric that is 1.5 inches wide, and I'm going to be placing it directly on top of that line, starting from the 1 inch point that I made at that side there. Like you can see, I'm placing it directly on that line. You could as well put the line at the middle, but I didn't want that. So before I went ahead to sew, I also have done the opening at the lower part. So here is how I did it. Now you can see the 1 inch that we left while opening up and the 1 inch sewing allowance that we have. We're going to be folding it over, so we have 2 inches at that part, and then we're going to be steam pressing it down. So having done that, I went ahead to also fold it again by half of an inch inward. So what we would be left with will be 1.5 inches, and then we're going to be securing it with a hemming gum and then also sewing it on top. So that's optional. If you want, you can put your hemming gum to further secure it or not, but ensure that you stitch it down because it is going to open along the line and you don't want that to happen. So this is me putting my hemming gum to further secure it. Hemming gum is a lifesaver, guys. If you are not using it, please start incorporating it. You can see how smooth it is even without stitching it down yet. So now I have done that for all of the sides, and you can see this is what I have, looking so smooth. And I've also gone ahead to sew my casing. Guys, remember to sew this casing before you join the center front. It will make your work easier. You can see the fine lines that we have on the outside of the fabric, and then the inside is where we have the casing of the rope. So now that 1 inch that we left before joining our casing, we're going to be making a hole to input our eyelet. Please be mindful of the hole that you want to put in there, because your size of eyelet is going to determine the size of hole that you're going to be using. So I used a bigger size of the eyelet, and then I tried to make it a bit more big so that it can accommodate the eyelet that I have. You can see me doing the extra notches by the side. And now you're going to be putting the right side, facing the right side of the fabric, and this eyelet comes with a cover, right? So we're going to be covering it up like so, and then using the grommet machine to put it down in place. You see, guys, ensure you do this before you join the center front. It will be a lot more easier. See the hole that we made here, looking so beautiful already. Can you see? It just makes your work really neat. Now I'm going to be passing the rope, but first see the fine lines that we have. It's not even showing that we have anything done there, right? So now it's time to pass the rope, the string. I've gone ahead to prepare this. Just make a random length, but make it long enough to go round the waist, and then you're able to tie. So with the help of a safety pin, I'm going to be inserting this into the dress on the wrong side, because that's where we have our opening, right? So just pass the rope inside, and then you turn it into the eyelets on the outside, so you have a complete drawstring already. As you can see, it takes time, just be patient with it, and then you draw it out, adjust your dress, keep adjusting till you get the proper length that you want to work with. Make it even. Now you can see I'm done putting the drawstring, so I'm just going to pass it out to the front side of the dress, and then I'm going to flip the dress over to the front side. Guys, we are almost getting to the end of this video. Please subscribe if you haven't, like and share. Thank you as you do so. Now you can see this is what we have, and it's looking beautiful already. So right here, I haven't fixed the color because I didn't want this video to be too long, so please, I'll be sending out another video on the color. Kindly watch out for that. And now this is what we are working with. Really, it's so beautiful. So even if you don't want a color, you can just give it a bias taping, and this dress is as good as get to go, right? This is what we have. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate. Bye.